And if so, why is that?
In effect, they are similar, but only in effect. But the motivation to vote for euthanasia on demand is totally different. Yeah. I think in the Netherlands you have a very strong liberal culture. Yeah. And therefore the value of autonomy and self-determination is ranged higher than in Eastern Germany. Yeah. I think the difference is in Eastern Germany you have no religious culture anymore. You have towns with only 3% Christians or religious people. You have 97% atheism. In some towns, somewhere, not overall in Eastern Germany. And therefore there's a lack, I guess, to care for the value of life if it's not anymore functional for society. But I think the main difference is the liberal culture and the liberal tradition and the motivation. In effect, it's very similar. Okay?
Might there be another explanation, perhaps? Is this working? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I find it hard to believe that in a very short period of time that the East and West have changed through social conditioning. And in the East, perhaps there aren't any of the opportunities of having contraception, for example, readily available as we have as they are available in the West. And the autonomy, the wish to be making your own decisions is there equally strongly, except there isn't the backup facility of the businesses of providing contraception, providing education at the school level, saying that reproduction is a privilege and not a right. So with that privilege go to have informed pregnancies, those sort of attitudes, rather than a more complicated social conditioning in 20, 30, 40 years.
So you think 15 years are not enough time to change?
I don't think so.
Today,
no.
But today you have in Eastern Germany the same standards as in Western Germany.
So contraceptives are equally available in both sides?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
And I have to say...
and the education about contraception and open speaking about...
It's all the same. It's okay. You have few differences, in institutional and organizational, and the universities are even more modern than in West Germany today, because everything was built new. And if you go then Eastern Germany, you see, especially in the main towns, you have very really new towns. Every building is just built up 10 years ago.
In which case, perhaps, if society can be fundamentally changed in a very short period of time, maybe there is hope for, say, including other environmental things or something. So, maybe we are much more flexible than it seems. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, we will see.
Yeah. We'll see. Yeah.
If my understanding is correct, I understand that in Germany there is a very strong intellectual tradition of deontological viewpoint in bioethics and bioethics. And you already gave us the information that the East German societies are in the process of being built anew, right, for the past decade. However, I really wonder why the medical ethics, the syllabus, has been modeled after the British model instead of the deontologically based German model. Is there any difference? I wonder if it is because it has been, so I really wonder who has been in charge of, organizing the syllabus and the medical ethics course?
Those people were mainly physicians. I often think in Germany everything is good that comes from the West. That means the USA and the United Kingdom, and therefore why not looking there if you have to create a new one? Yeah, you can copy it. And those differences of ethics between Kant and John Stuart Mill, for example, yeah, that doesn't appear to those physicians who create this syllabus. Yeah. I'm not a physician, I'm a philosopher, and I studied theology. I know it, and I'm very critical about this, yeah, because of these, that's not reflected. Yeah. The point you mentioned, yeah, is not reflected in this book and not in the syllabus. That's a problem, I think, yeah. Because the concept of autonomy is totally different. If you come from the tradition or the culture of the USA, yeah, you have Bentham and John Stuart Mill, the utilitarianism, or if you come from Europe and you have Kant, Immanuel Kant with his concept, yeah, but it's not reflected.
I have 2 comments from the floor, and then you can make one response. So Samantha and Yangguan, and then please make a combined response.
Very short comment. I need to thank you for your analysis of the East and West German situation, because I've been doing study in Hong Kong and also in mainland China, and actually I make very similar observations regarding the attitude towards euthanasia and abortion, and actually your analysis brought light to me about how to make sense of why there are differences, and now I'll be thinking of these issues in a wider sense. Thank you.
Okay. I want to say something to this. I have learned from the Chinese medical ethics draft, yeah, to get this interpretation. Yeah. So looking there, and you see what where the problems are located.
I just know from your talk from 2002, for get the lessons to medical practice, the medical ethics begin to absorb to the medical education, absorb to the medical teaching. What I want to know, what happened before the 2000?
Nothing. Nothing between ethics. What happened was pure paternalism, I guess. Yeah, because the physician knows best, and the structure of the education in medicine is very hierarchical. Yeah. You've got the C4 professor, and then you've got the C3 professor, and then you've got the overall physician and the normal physician, and then you've got the students of medicine, and what he above tells is the truth. And the impact to install ethics in the medical curriculum did not come from the physicians themselves. It was an impact that came from society and from theologians and from philosophers.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. So we have some similar issues in Asia and regarding this political transitions. The next speaker, Dr. Nalini, and she will speak on ethics education and the medical curriculum and the perspectives of interns.
Good morning. First, I would like to thank the UNESCO and Dr. Darryl for giving me this opportunity. This is our university building, a brief introduction about the place where I work. When I say university, we don't have any campus institution, medical or paramedical in our university. It is an affiliating body, a governing body, which affiliates more than 200 institutions of medicine, including Indian systems of medicine, that is Ayurveda, Siddha, Unani, homeopathy, etc. Also dentistry, nursing, pharmacy, physiotherapy, etc. And our university is essentially an administrative body responsible for the governance, especially in academic matters. So we just thought that since medical ethics has not been included in the formal curriculum for medical students and also for paramedical professional courses, we thought we would start somewhere by doing a small survey among interns. These interns are trainees who undergo 1 year of internship after 4.5 years of study in the medical school, and they graduate only after completing the internship. The background, we are all aware that in recent decades there has been tremendous advances in medical sciences. The knowledge has grown exponentially and technology has developed by leaps and bounds. The way in which medical profession and other healthcare professions are practiced, and also the traditional doctor-patient relationship, has undergone change, dramatic change. It is true that this enormous increase in knowledge and technology has empowered the healthcare professionals to achieve standards of diagnosis and treatment which were not possible earlier. But as remarked by Einstein, our technology has exceeded our humanity. We all take the Hippocratic Oath on graduation. The essence of Hippocratic Oath is non-maleficence and beneficence. But even before the period of Hippocrates, I would like to say that our Ayurvedic physicians have talked about dharma or duties or code of conduct for the healers. One such Ayurvedic text is Charaka Samhita, written by Charaka, which says, "Thou shalt not desert or injure thy patient for thy living, even for the sake of thy life." In the present times, there are other considerations in addition to non-beneficence and beneficence. The physician has to take cognizance of patient autonomy and distributive justice. In our setup, still it is the prevailing attitude is one of paternalism. Not only the educated, not only people who have information about diseases and therapies, etc., people who do not have information about diseases and therapies, but even educated people think, many of them think that doctor knows best. But we have to say that autonomy, the concept of autonomy, is slowly creeping in. Distributive justice, because with advanced technology, the healthcare is becoming more and more costly. Both ethical and economic implications of the choices of diagnosis and treatment are to be analyzed. There are ethical, legal, social, and human rights issues related to biomedical research with human participation, end-of-life care, abortion, assisted reproductive technology, organ transplantation, genetic technology, embryo research, and cloning, HIV/AIDS, etc. So training of doctors and healthcare professionals should incorporate teaching of ethics to enable them to face the ethical issues in their professional practice. Unfortunately, the formal training is not a component of medical curriculum in many of the medical schools. I wonder whether it's a situation which is peculiar to us. From what I read, even though the United States schools, medical schools, had ethics in their curriculum in 1970s as an elective subject, and in the 1980s it became component of core curriculum. But even in 1970s, I have read a report by a medical student from probably Mount Sinai Medical School who says that varying in content and structure, ethics teaching in US resembles basic sciences instruction before the Flexner report. In 1910, Abraham Flexner, he did a survey of medical education in the United States, and Flexner's report was, it led to a firm scientific foundation of medical education in the United States. So he said the basic sciences should be learnt before the students come into contact with clinical patients in the clinics. So there are a few medical colleges in our country, St. John's Medical College among them, where ethics education is imparted systematically. And recently, the Medical Council of India has made recommendations that ethics teaching should be included in the curriculum. Not only ethics, medical ethics, but also history of medicine. There is a lot that we can learn from history, and other humanities subjects also. So we conducted a survey from our department, from the university, in 4 medical colleges in Tamil Nadu, a southern state in India. Data were collected from interns undergoing training. A structured questionnaire was used and 184 interns responded. Our aim was to analyze the experiences and views, a process which will facilitate planning of formal ethics curriculum, because when we plan curriculum, it is quite justified that we should take the opinion from all stakeholders. It was a descriptive study. Survey was conducted in 4 major medical colleges. Data was collected from interns. The results show that 68% of the interns felt that they had opportunities to learn about ethics in their MBBS course. Nearly similar proportion opined that they were able to discuss the ethical issues with the faculty. Most of them cited forensic medicine and community medicine as specialties where they learnt about ethical issues. That is what Anuja was also talking about. But in forensic medicine, it is more of legal issues that is being taught than ethical issues. So ethics for medical students, why, when, what, and how. 75% of the house surgeons or internees, they wanted medical ethics as a separate subject, as a study of ethics will have an impact in improving professionalism. Most felt that teaching should be through all the phases of study for undergraduates. This is exactly the recommendation of the WSGO consultation on medical ethics teaching for medical students. Medical ethics needs to be taught not only at the undergraduate level, but also in the postgraduate education, and it should be continued through the health professional's lifetime. The topics which the interns were keen on having will be patient autonomy, ethical theories, codes of medical ethics, rights and duties of doctors, cost constraints, collection of fees by doctors, doctor-doctor relationship, etc. The preferred teaching methods were seminars, clinical teaching, and lectures. And evaluation methods which they wanted were oral presentations, quiz, and MCQs rather than essays or short answer questions. See, the formal curriculum like this, of course, helps the students to face ethical issues in future practice. But more important than the formal curriculum is the informal curriculum, learning about ethical behavior from good role models. I still remember one of my professors of medicine who used to tell us when we were interns, in those days we used to give an injection of paraldehyde to children who are having fits. He went to the extent of saying that all of you interns must have an injection of paraldehyde yourselves to realize how painful it is if it is given superficially and not deep within the muscle. So such type of empathy can be learnt very well from good role models. Good role models are there today, so the students and interns can learn a lot from them. The importance of this informal curriculum or hidden curriculum is reflected in observation by one of the internees. Ethics is learnt by observation and practice and not by mere teaching. On the other hand, behavior in the clinical settings which is perceived as unethical makes the students uncomfortable. In our study, the interns have made astute observations regarding unethical behavior of some clinicians, not only within the hospital but also in practice outside the hospitals. Some of these unethical behaviors perceived by the students were dealing with problems beyond one's competency without referring to the specialist, not so rational use of drugs, inadequate communication with the patients, either because the doctor is so busy or he has no inclination or he has no capacity to communicate properly, collection of fees, exorbitant fees, and doctor-doctor relationship. And this is such observations, similar observations have been made. I have read references where the medical students probably during their clerkships have made similar observations of practices which they consider as unethical. So to conclude, the major emphasis from this study is on the felt need of the students to have formal ethics curriculum during the undergraduate course and the importance of hidden curriculum in teaching of ethics. WHO consultation says that ethics today touches all aspects of health, beginning with the allocation of scarce resources, a fundamental consideration in medical practice today, whether at the individual, community, or national level. The teaching of health ethics is becoming more and more necessary and is a must in every doctor's curricula. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any comments or question? Yes? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for an excellent paper. Just goes to show that the similarity between the issues that you face with your interns and residents in India and the ones we face in Pakistan. I did a similar study a couple of years ago which was published in the Journal of Pakistan Medical Association, and almost identical issues were identified by residents. The residents are just a little level above interns who've just finished their internship, and issues like communication, as you mentioned, and the fee structure that you mentioned, and others that you mentioned also. Unfortunately, we don't have, we're not educating our residents and interns or students in ethics, except for the informal education that is going on at bedside by mentoring, but that is ineffective and unstructured. Which is why we are trying to formulate some sort of educational program. I was just wondering whether you plan to see whether your educational strategies are having an effect on the ethical behavior of your interns, and whether you plan to have a follow-up study and see in a year or two whether that has had an effect.
Yes, we have not yet started the formal curriculum as such. So that should be the first step before we can think about doing analysis.
Is there any way of abolishing the capitation fees
That is, I think, answering that question is beyond my capacity.
Because in India they pay 1,500,000 to 200,000 rupees, which they put it in the bank, they'll get more than the amount they earn as a doctor.
Yeah, that is true, but I don't know, in some ways, some of these capitation fee institutions are doing good work because there are so many young people who want to become doctors, and our government medical colleges alone are not able to accommodate all of them. So in that aspects, these capitation fee institutions are doing good work, offering an opportunity. But of course, I do agree that commercialization of medical education is to be avoided.
Please explain the capitation fee for us. What is capitation fee?
Pardon, capitation fee is those private sector institutions where you pay a huge amount to get into.
Okay, yes, Strata.
Just a quick comment on the capitation fee. I recently joined a capitation fee college. So outside that college in India, probably I can comment on that. Well, the management has the power to choose 75% of the 80% of the total intake. And believe me, there were 7 days of interview. All the cards of the ministers and the politicians and the social elites were there, and there is a kind of a examination which is just eyewash, and they were paying 30 lakhs of rupees and 30 lakhs of rupees, 25 to 30 lakhs of Indian rupees. And believe me, I was really wondering where I am. And that's the state of affairs in Tamil Nadu, in Karnataka, in Andhra, in Maharashtra, and last 10 years has been really move in the wrong direction, in my personal opinion.
But I would just like to make one comment. Is it the fault of the medical profession? Who is having this capitation fee institutions? Not all doctors are running these institutions. It is the common people who are the other people than doctors. And as you said, ministers, everybody is coming. So, as was remarked earlier today, there is moral malaise. It is not only in the medical profession, it is everywhere. But only thing is, probably this is projected more because you expect the medical professionals to be above criticism. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you. So just before the next presentation, I have an important announcement. I'm going to pass around 2 lists, both just 2 copies of the same list. It's for signing up for the group photograph copies that we took yesterday. And it's going to be available on Thursday morning, or else if you've gone home already, we know your address, we will post it to you. But because of our costs, the photographer would like to ask 150 baht, okay, Thai baht, and so you'd need to pay the photographer at lunchtime outside. Some of you are already buying photographs outside from him. And so do it before you go to lunch, it's better. So I'm going to pass around a list, just put your name, and then we'll give this list to him and he can quickly just tick it off when you pay. So thank you. I'll pass that around. Also, we're going to pass around an address list of participants. Our copy, we would like you all to check your name and correct any details so that we can make a final list which we can email to people. Sophia?
Sorry for the group picture. You just sign outside and pay 150 baht.
Yeah.
And then you get the picture on Thursday. You don't have to circulate the paper.
Yes, I have to circulate now. Yeah, so.
Not don't need to circulate, just they pay and sign outside, that's all.
Yeah. Well,
from this roundtable during the session. I would just like to briefly tell you about some of our experiences in setting up bioethics teaching at the University of Malaya. And just to set the scenario about Malaysia, just some basic facts. Now, Malaysia comprises a population of about 27 million, so that's relatively low. And it comprises Peninsular Malaysia, which is known as West Malaysia, and that's really south of Thailand, that peninsula juts out, Sabah and Sarawak, which are collectively known as East Malaysia. And throughout history, for many thousands of years, we have had influences from various regions of the world, and notably its Srivijaya Empire. We have the Sejarah Melayu, which is a UNESCO World Heritage. The Majapahit Empire, Thailand at a certain time, we paid to Malacca, and certain states in Malaysia paid tribute to Thailand. China, of course, with the influx of the Chinese merchants and the Admiralty and the fleets. Arabia, Portugal, Holland, and in 1957 we gained independence from being a British colony. So we do have a collection of various historical influences. The present population comprises of Malays being the majority. They are the Muslim population in Malaysia. The Chinese, that's about 20-25% of the population. The Indian community, as well as the Sri Lankan community, who have lived there for several generations. Indigenous groups, of which we have about 20 or so, with their own languages, and also the Eurasians. I'm an example of a Eurasian with some British background mixed with Asian. So this is just to show you, there are just 4 faces here. There could be 40 different types of faces in Malaysia. And that is a Iban man, and the Ibans are in Sarawak, and the Indian ancestry, Chinese ancestry, and the Malay. In terms of religions and beliefs, we are multi-religious. Although Islam is the official religion, the citizens can practice freely Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism, Sikhism, some animism, and some traditional beliefs are still practiced by the Orang Asli, or the indigenous people. So we have a whole mix of different religions. The languages spoken, Bahasa Malaysia is the official language, so what I sang yesterday was in Bahasa, but English is the second language, which is very widely spoken and used in a lot of in all our educational establishments. Besides that, we have Mandarin, Chinese, several Chinese dialects, Tamil, Aslian, which are a combination of Austronesian as well as Austroasiatic languages. So we're very diverse. Education, in terms of education, there's mandatory 6-year primary education as well as secondary education, and tertiary education is optional, but more and more people are actually opting to go into tertiary education with the growing of tertiary institutions and also research opportunities in the country. Okay, this is the Faculty of Medicine and the University of Malaya Medical Center, and this is where I work with my colleagues. And as you can see, we do also have a bit of a haze problem. It's not that clear. And of late, there have been forest fires which have caused this problem. In any case, the faculty was established, it has its roots in 1905 with the establishment of the King Edward Medical College, which was in Singapore, but in the 1960s, when Singapore and Malaysia broke up, this was set up in Kuala Lumpur. And since 1963 or so, we've been running our own programs. This is basically a structure. I apologize for this one because you can't really see it, but suffice to say that we are a combination of the medical as well as university hospital that forms the University of Malaya Medical Center. We also have a science faculty within the campus. Our core activities comprise, like in most establishments, the services that are provided by the hospital, by clinical as well as paraclinical staff, the teaching, both at undergraduate as well as postgraduate level, and also research activities. And we have obtained quite a number of government grants for biomedical research. So this is just to show you some pictures of the lecture theatre where we do the didactic teachings and our lectures per se. And we also do small group teachings, which is probably very much in common with most people. They do here, and it is in the small group teachings we are able to interact better with our students. Undergraduate programs. at the moment. We are doing the MBBS. We've been doing that for some time. The Bachelor of Pharmacy, Bachelor of Biomedical Sciences, and the Bachelor of Nursing Sciences were established only in 1993 as new programs. So, and there are quite a number of diploma courses as well, ranging from basic nursing to radiotherapy and management in diabetic clinics. In terms of postgraduate programs, we have 20 clinical master's programs ranging from anesthesiology right up to sports medicine. So it's quite diverse. And we have postgraduate programs such as the Masters of Medical Science, the Doctor of Medicine, and the PhD programs that are by research and dissertation. We look at research. The UMMC has been long recognized for its commitment to quality research programs that address the health needs of Malaysia and also beyond. And we like to incorporate a multidisciplinary approach in our research. And the intention is to actually also build a portfolio of collaborative research projects within the country as well as the region. We have a medical ethics committee in the UMMC, and that medical ethics committee also looks at project proposals that come from other faculties in the university that deal with human subjects, whether they be patients or volunteers. Okay, so how is bioethics relevant? And I'm sure what I'm saying is not very new. We think that we need to take a serious look to provide some holistic education in a multi-racial and also a multi-religious population. And there have been various developments ranging from the biodiversity conventions, new global technologies, and availability of reproductive options and diagnostic tests, and even contract research, and that actually are available in the country that will be something that we have to deal with. And also the emergence of genetically engineered therapeutics. Someone yesterday mentioned about humulin. This is human insulin produced in a bacteria that is used in the treatment of diabetes. And we've got one of the highest incidences of diabetes in Southeast Asia. GMOs, etc. So the government has been emphasizing the research and development in science and technology for the past 15 years, and we felt that it was time to empower people with the ability to make informed choices, and we had to start doing it at university level where we could make a difference. This just shows you the priority areas for the Malaysian plan RM8 funding. We have a Malaysian plan every 5 years, and there are priority areas that would get grants for research and development, and these are for the main areas. If we look at the university per se, and most universities in general, this is the way the research funding is distributed. About 70% actually comes from the government or the IRPA mechanism, 25% from industry, and 5% from other sources, such as pharmaceutical companies who are doing research trials, etc. Now, it was realized in University Malaya that we were duty-bound actually to try and produce graduates that, apart from having intellectual knowledge and competence, etc., were also ethically aware and conscious and able to incorporate this into their careers and their daily lives, okay? And also to ensure that research students were equipped with some basic knowledge and skills so as to conduct their research and report their findings in an ethically responsible manner. And I quote from the publication in AJOB, Eisen and Berry, "The vast majority of principal investigators in bioscience have received little or no formal training in responsible research conduct." I think that's quite true. So in terms of the medical degree, before 1998, there was really nil or virtually no education in this area. For the MBBS, there was just 1 hour devoted to ethics in 5 years of medical training. This was prior to 1998. And in other courses, it was either covered there was very little coverage. In biomedical sciences, it was not covered at all. So in 2003, the Vice Chancellor and the Senate mooted a policy that moral and professional ethics be a compulsory core course and a requirement for graduation for all the faculties in the University of Malaya. And how we actually conducted the courses was left to the faculties themselves to look at what sort of areas they need to focus on. This core, it comprises 30 hours of teaching and coursework. And at the moment, since the majority of the courses are still very much exam-oriented, we wanted to make this a little bit less exam-oriented. So we worked at a compromise that would allow us to assess and look at participation for about 60% and then 40% from the examination. And at the moment, bioethics per se is covered in science and medical faculties. Faculty of Science has got these courses, Professional Ethics and Morals in Science, and also Contemporary Bioethics, and it's taught by Siti Noorani and a team at the Department of Science and Technology. And the Faculty of Medicine, there is a 30-hour, so it's great change from a 1-hour thing, a 30-hour professional and personal development module where these issues are addressed. And I will make the emails available to you for people who are teaching in these programs, for you to contact them for further details. The pharmacy course, in pharmacy, these are taught pharmaceutical ethics, as well as the laws and acts, the poisons, the dangerous drugs acts, and the registrations, very practical things. And the pharmacy is related to the laws and acts, and some of these lectures are given directly by the members of the Malaysian Pharmaceutical Board for licensing, etc. In nursing, the nursing educators would cover these areas: nursing in society, nursing professional code of ethics, ethical issues in clinical practice, ethical dilemmas, etc. And in biomedical sciences, which I'm directly involved in, we do the course in year 2 when we have actually put in the basics for the year 1. And this course is done just before the students go and do their research projects. A research project is a requirement in biomedical science degree course. So before that, we do this course with them where we look at the content as you see here. So eugenics, assisted reproductive technologies, xenotransplantation, telemedicine, patenting, even intellectual property, human cloning, genetic screening, and so forth. In terms of resources, since this policy was implemented quite recently, it was left very much to interested lecturers who would want to get involved. And as they say, fools rush in where angels fear to tread. So we had an enthusiastic bunch who sort of went round at meetings to ask people and disturb people about ways to teach bioethics, since we ourselves were not trained in that field. And one of the people I spoke to was Darryl, and he's been a tremendous help. In any case, we try and have the lecturers from various disciplines. So we have got clinicians, scientists, sociologists, lawyers, vets, even religious lecturers to actually contribute to our course. And the small group discussions and seminars are very effective. We find them more effective, and we look at material from UN itself, some local issues, newspaper clippings that are relevant to the happenings, advertisements, and also the textbook that we got from the Eubios Institute. And what we do is also we encourage students to present using group presentations, and also give them some assignments to do, and using that we evaluate. Okay, this is just an example of some of the material that we use, and this was taken from the newspaper, and we discuss these issues with the students. So these would be some of the discussion points. What is the actual event? What was the scientific cause? What was the rationale? Where were the regions? Which were the populations affected? And things like that. And we ask questions like, is it appropriate to pronounce judgment? You know, so we lead the students to actually think, to discuss it in a group, and then we obtain their feedback. This is an example of something that is discussed during our small group sessions. And this, of course, is in Italy, but it's also a problem in Malaysia, where we have rules where smoking is actually prohibited in public places. It's banned, but it still happens. So what is our response? This is a national issue. couple of years ago, the government introduced national service as a compulsory service for people after secondary 5 before university to participate in. And there was a directive that they should actually be trained to use weapons. But now I think with consultation and differing views, I think the government has taken a stand where weapons training will be optional and it won't be forced. So we also get the students to actually discuss this because it does involve them. This, of course, is these are issues that are real, and these are developments with the technology. Chickens lay anti-cancer drugs and eggs. What do the students feel about this? Besides knowing how it is done, etc., what are your feelings towards this, and what are the ethical questions? And this is also related, this is a GMO issue, which we use for discussion. And at the moment, we have a biosafety bill, but it has not yet been tabled in Parliament. It has been 10 years in the drafting, but hopefully, as Nizam says, we will have it tabled this year. So, 2 years into the program, so we're still relatively young, and we need to fine-tune it. And what we'd like to happen is to also introduce it as a compulsory postgraduate research training program, work with others, individuals or local and international institutions. And also, I think what would be critical for us to do would be to set up a national initiative to look at bioethics issues from our perspectives and also spread awareness through educational exchange programs. I would like to end by acknowledging University of Malaya for giving me leave to be here, the Ministry of Science, Technology and Environment, UNESCO, and all these people who have been a great help to our efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes, Abnek, please.
It's really very nice to see that you have adopted, LC concepts in medical curriculum. What I would like to know is whether you have adopted similar, courses in, say, for example, biotechnology or biological sciences too.
Yes, I just put this up. Lecturers in the Faculty of Science, which is where Bachelor of Biology and Bachelor of Biotechnology are thought have incorporated these courses, Professional Ethics and Morals in Science and Technology, and also Contemporary Bioethics. If you would like to know the details, I would make the emails available of all these people. Siti Nurani and her team have been instrumental.
Any other comment? Yes, please. Karuna, please. Okay, come to a microphone. Thank you.
The course we are referring to in Biomedical Sciences is an undergraduate or postgraduate?
This is an undergraduate course, a formal course, which is compulsory for graduation.
Because the contents of the course looks little advanced for an undergraduate. We teach research ethics, only the basics of research ethics at the undergraduate level, like telemedicine and intellectual property rights. Yes. I think it will be very difficult for an undergraduate to understand. So that's why I thought I'll ask.
Thank you for your comment. I think we'll take that into consideration. At the moment, it's more exposure. We try, because we really were grappling at strings to try and include a lot of things. So perhaps we might not be testing them on these issues. In fact, when we do our tests, we test them on very general issues, but just the exposure, giving them the exposure that these things are around and one needs to address it. We also have informal postgraduates who are invited to attend. So although it's not mandatory, we invite them. We invite all our postgraduate students to actually attend, and hopefully within the next few years it will be made mandatory for them to do.
One more thing.
Yes.
What's the role of your ethics committee in teaching? Does it have a role?
The Medical Ethics Committee reviews research proposals rather than teaching curricula. It's research proposal review and recommendation.
We have to stop. Thank you very much. That's good. Thank you. So just before lunch on the program, we have a last item here, which was I wanted to introduce briefly the UNESCO geodatabase regarding teaching, and Thanks. Yeah. Because I thought this will be very useful. Initially, I was planning to distribute the forms at this meeting, but after discussions with Henk ten Have, who's the Director of Ethics and Science Technology Division in Paris, UNESCO, we thought it's better to wait for several months. So that's why we have a questionnaire to get your detail of initial courses, and then you'll be receiving emails. And in addition to that, we plan to hold focused sub-regional meetings to explain how to fill in these forms, because they have found have just started last year with some of gathering such data in Europe, that it's often difficult to get standardized forms. And in fact, there's somebody being employed in Paris to try and focus on filling out these forms. But the idea is a global repository of all ethics teaching. And there's several forms at the moment. I just introduce the different types, and I'll show you an example from one of them, and then you can have lunch. So we'd like to know the contribution of ethics teaching to various stages of the educational process. So the graduation programs at the bachelor's level, so it depends on what stage it is for the professional development. As mentioned, in some countries like Brazil, it's a closure of education for some professions, and depends. The master's programs, so these are, for example, courses, a course in bioethics. As Maud has shown examples, she gave the names of the different courses in different faculties, so that's what we're trying to map. Doctorate program courses, meaning the courses they get, and also, of course, research programs would be others. Specialization, for example, for medical ethics specialization or nursing, the specialized courses. And continuous education programs for professionals. It's another very important area, because how do we educate professionals when they are now met with the requirements to teach, for example, in academia, to teach engineering ethics to all the graduates in Japan and India, which are both requirements now, which are massive implications of how to generate the capacity quickly. And I will show you one example of this form, but they have rather similar structures. So this is an example for the graduation program, undergraduate programs. So general details, websites, areas of ethics. So we've decided on these areas for now, and you've got other as well. But animal ethics, bioethics, dental ethics, engineering ethics, environmental ethics, ethics in law, ethics in social science, food ethics, medical ethics, nursing ethics, pharmacy ethics, philosophical ethics, religious ethics, science ethics, space ethics, technology ethics. They forgot water ethics, but anyway, that would be under others. So responsible teachers, the teaching team, and to add in more details about the course, such as language, the place in the curriculum. And of course, you can send back copies of your curriculum. And several people have brought curriculum here to the meeting, knowing that we're interested in the Asia-Pacific region as well, because this is meant to be a global initiative, but we certainly need this data for implementation of our programs in the Pacific and in Asia right now, so we can map out how we're going to plan conferences. Whether the course is mandatory, optional. What are the objectives of a course? So is it just awareness of the normative dimensions? Is it moral sensitivity, good conduct, identification of moral issues, knowledge or information, understanding and explaining, analysis and reasoning, justification, argumentation, critical reflection, and we can think of others. The syllabus, there's a place for the syllabus, teaching methodology, what sorts of methods you use, lectures, seminars, tutorials, computers, distance learning, clinical cases, others. And always welcome to receive more material. Study materials like textbooks, newspaper articles, and so on. UNESCO is interested if you're using any UNESCO documents, and that was also an item on the questionnaire we circulated in this meeting. How do you evaluate students, which a number of you have raised in this this session today and in the previous ones in the meeting? How do you evaluate the course? What keywords do you use in the course? And additional information. And there's an annex of examples of keywords, which we will have identified a number of keywords which will all be we're kind of using as categories for the teaching program. So animal ethics, all these issues, bioethics, dental ethics, most of these issues, engineering ethics, ethics and law, ethics and social science, food ethics, medical ethics. So there's a long list. Nursing ethics, pharmacy ethics, philosophical ethics, religious, and so on, science ethics, space, and so on. So, and technology. So these forms are developed and developing, and there will be a dedicated professional based in Paris to do this, but we're also trying, as we develop programs in every country, to try to map what's existing and also at the same time to develop, because as has been shared in this meeting, many of you are actively involved in ethics education. I've been developing curriculum and ethics courses for 15 years, and we've been doing this a long time. We've tried various attempts to map in different ways, not so successful, I think, especially from the perspective of this region. So we'd like, to coordinate and try and do this activity on a global level. And I should mention that GEO will be available in the 6 official languages of UNESCO, and also our office in Bangkok would like to respond to some regional languages as well. So it's quite a big undertaking that's going to take some time, but we hope that will answer some of your questions. And also, so while we have these various meetings in different countries under the UNESCO auspices, the meetings are used to sort of feed in to developing these instruments to try and standardize how we can map the data. And in fact, in the next 2 years, the keywords of mapping ethics programs is a major activity in our regions of the world.
Something that people in academia are doing. And I would like to put forward my reflection, so to speak, on the nature of bioethics as an interdisciplinary, something is wrong with this microphone, discipline. Maybe you can use another one? Yeah. Here is the list of my questions that I propose to give some outlines of the answers during the 10 minutes of my presentation. What kind of discipline is bioethics? If it is interdisciplinary, what is its nature? What are the practical implications of this issue, etc.? And this, the how bioethics to be taught refers to these practical implications. And I've also talk about the basic problems of interdisciplinarity, namely how to integrate different things so that a new thing is created while the differences are still there. This is typically a philosophical question, how can there be differences while all these differences belong to a unity? But I try to make it a more practical way of doing things as much as possible. Now, bioethics as a discipline. Being a discipline, and by the word discipline I mean what we normally do in universities. We divide our studies up and put them in separate departments. For example, physics or chemistry or biology or philosophy or sociology or anthropology. All this means that being a discipline means that bioethics, if it's a discipline in the same sense of the ones I referred to earlier, it has to have its own canon, its own method that is agreed upon by those who call themselves bioethicists, its own problematic and its own store of knowledge that people refer to when they do literature review, for example. And as we all know, the current situation for bioethics seems to be heading into this direction of bioethics becoming a more or less autonomous discipline. Okay. However, it seems to me that bioethics differs from the traditional disciplines in that it comprises several different disciplines, and these are old news to all of us from the beginning, from philosophy, and it has blossomed and included more social scientific disciplines, and of course it has to include the results of the natural sciences, because that's where the questions arise. So here is the underlying tension. On the one hand, bioethics is driving to become a discipline of its own. But on the other, it needs input from the other disciplines, namely philosophy and life sciences and medicine and so forth. So, where are we heading at? I quote this long text, which is a preface to a book on autopoiesis, that's Greek for self-making, the realization of the living. And you don't have to worry about what it is said here. The idea is that there is a criticism of interdisciplinary discipline, if we can use this word, in such a way that, when you have something that is interdiscipline, what you should have is that you should have what is called a higher synthesis of disciplines, some kind of discipline that put together the results from all the disciplines that come together to make up this new field of study. And this new field will become its own field of study or discipline in its own right, with its own canon and literature review stuff that I have talked about earlier. And to the critic, his name is Stephen Beer, he wrote a preface to the book I told you about.